David,
Hey, Chip.
hi.
How are
Hi.
you?
Oh my God, this has been a really crazy week. This is, I don't know if it's happy hour for me. It's sad hour, but I have some happiness as well. I mean, I have a full combo, but let's start with you because I think you have more happiness. You have Botox, I think.
Oh,
If I read your column correctly today, you have
I did.
Botox.
I did.
Really? Is that a happy thing?
So it was just kind of a weird thing, right? So I'm at the dermatologist getting like, the usual skin cancer thing. And like, I just said to myself, Botox, what's that like? And I said to her, like, how does this work? Like, you shoot this like incredibly toxic, fatal thing into my head. Like, are there any bad effects? And she's like, no. And I said, well, okay. So I'm figuring, Chip, like, if it goes terribly wrong and like my face gets all fucked up or something, I'm thinking, well, it'll wear off in 3 or 4 months. I'm not no in-person meetings for a year, so let's see what this is like. And it was kind of interesting. So what I didn't
So
like,
you're wearing Botox right now. You're wearing it.
yeah. So I'm like,
Like,
five weeks in.
oh my God. And what is your forehead has no wrinkles.
Well, it's so I can do this, right? And if I try really hard, I can kind of do this. But it just kind of, it was a funny, like, it's so self-obsessive, right? So every day for the first couple of weeks, I look in the mirror and you kind of slowly takes effect. I'm guessing half of the audience has had Botox, but for me, it was.
Oh, wait. Let's do a
Can we do
poll.
a
So
poll?
how many of you have ever had Botox and do you wish you hadn't, or are you happy that you've had it? And we're really going for it today, guys. We're going to let you all okay. Well, so yeah, let's hear Botox out there. For me, oh my God, I want the wrinkles for some reason. I want to be a raisin when I grow up.
Well, it's high def cameras on Zoom. Like, I don't, like I spend now, like all of us, I spend like 5 hours a day, like staring at myself high definition. And I was just like, my eyes are kind of sagging and I don't like the way I look. So it's like, okay. And so I had a conversation with the doctor and I said, so talk to me about Anderson Cooper, because if you watch Anderson Cooper, you can watch his whole like Botox regime over a period of weeks. So when you can tell when he first gets shot that he wears glasses because they shoot him up too heavy and his eyes kind of go like this. So to cover that up, he puts on glasses, right? So he'll wear the glasses for a couple of weeks and then the Botox kind of chills out and then the glasses come off and he's like, oh, I'm Anderson Cooper. And so because I was telling her, what's the deal with like this? And so she told me the whole, that's what's going on. And I love Anderson Cooper. He's like awesome. And I don't want to diss him. But I said to her, like, like the TV weather people who look like plastic fantastic. Like, is that going to happen to me? And she's like, no. It's just like, you just got to do it the right way. A little bit here, a little bit there. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm okay. How do I look? Do I look all right?
Well, I mean, your bald head is like stunning. It's almost like it's, I don't know, Mr. Magoo.
Oh, thank you. Bring it.
No,
I was thinking nice things to say about you too, Chip.
I'm sorry. No, it looks great. You look younger. I don't know. The mutations of the Botox in my brain. I don't know if it would. I know it's very far from my brain, but.
Well, we got, of course.
You don't need it. You look great. Listen, here's the part that's funny: is you're the straight guy, I'm the gay guy, and you're doing Botox, and I'm looking like an old man. So I mean, whatever. First of all, let's do a little cheers to the happy hour. It's
Absolutely.
happy hour, and
Yes.
we are gonna have a happy hour, hopefully with BJ. Do we have any news on BJ, Laura?
Have we cited BJ?
He just came
Yes, I
in.
am here, everybody.
Oh, there he is! Woo!
I went down a rabbit hole. I was doing some research and I just get so lost in it. I apologize for being late.
No, it's okay. That's good. We're going to come back to you in a minute, BJ. But now that we know you're here, that makes us know that we don't have to go on too long. But thank you for coming. You're my hero, and you're David's hero. So thanks for being here. David,
are you in Hawaii today?
Wait. Say that again.
Are you in Maui?
I'm in Maui. I'm actually in my Zoom room here in our home in Maui. I've set up a room just for Zoom, and I'm here. Yeah.
Are you in Paia?
No, in McKenna.
Oh, nice. Do you go to Little McKenna and get naked?
Sometimes.
But
with COVID, it's been like closed. I haven't been there in months. So I find my own beaches that are empty, and I get naked by myself.
Wait. Okay, we're going into the BJ. We're just going straight. I was going to say something else, but we're going BJ. So, oh my God.
Why am I telling you guys this? Okay.
Because that's what happy hour is about, is to self-reveal. You're a Mormon who gets naked, and you're 2 years sober, and your birthday's tomorrow, and you're gay like me. Come on.
Welcome to the club, everybody. I did not know that about you, Chip.
You didn't know I was gay or something else?
Well, I mean, some people think there's like a club and we all know each other, but we don't. I mean, yeah.
But wait, that's the part you didn't know, or something else?
Yeah, I didn't know you were gay. I mean, I'll bring my partner and he'll say hi if you want, but yeah, I am.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going in the background now, and I'm letting David take the lead. But all I know is that I'm Oprah, and I force you to self-reveal, and then he's going to get into the intellectual stuff with you because you're just such a brainiac.
But I'm kind of in a like reveal myself mode. So David, we may not get out of this funk, and I'm going to talk about my background being Mormon and on. But David, take it away.
But wait, there's a question from Cindy Adams. Cindy Adams says, "Have you had Botox?" Here's your self-revealing moment.
You know what? I did 10 years ago. 10 years, I confess. But not now. My partner, he thought I was just injecting poison. So I said, I won't do it again.
Okay.
I'm just kind of owning this. I turn 57 tomorrow. I own it. Yeah, I'm owning it.
You're good for you. All right, David, I'm leaving it up to you.
BJ, I'm driving to Utah in 3 weeks.
Oh, take precautions.
Land of Mormon.
Okay.
And really nice people too.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
So I've totally lost I just want to say, like, the way I know about you, BJ, is the back page of the FT magazine where you're on the rock with the legs crossed in the air. And I thought, I need to know about this guy. What is the deal here?
Yeah, we took that shot right out here on the ocean and here in South Maui. That was a really Financial Times piece. That was really, really odd. And they wanted a weird shot, so we went there. I offered to like strip down, but they didn't want to go there. So I'm setting such a bad example. I am sorry. I'll try to.
No, this is normal for happy hour. I'm sorry.
Like they give us this script that we're supposed to read. It would total fail. Like I don't know. So BJ, you've written. You know what I find fascinating about your work is you help people to make change, right? And I read, I might be wrong about this, but there is a thing called the Fogg behavioral model.
Yes.
Which is, is it a physical model?
I am prepared.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yes, of course. This is my Zoom room, people. This is where I teach people I've got everything at my fingertips. Keep going.
Should I prompt you for other props?
Just I'll pull them up when ready. Keep going.
All right, let's get back to the Fogg behavioral model, which I understand is motivation plus trigger is ability, right?
Well, it's motivation, ability, and prompt. It used to be trigger, but I changed the name like 3 years ago to prompt instead.
Okay.
Prompt, yes.
So, Professor Fogg, could you please explain to the graph to us?
Yes. Here's how it works. Behavior happens when three things come together at the same moment. There's motivation, there's ability, and there's a prompt. And you can map it in 2 dimensions. I didn't know we are going to do this, all y'all, but I'm always ready.
I know you had a prop.
I'm always ready. So motivation for any behavior, like say surfing, might be high or might be low or anywhere in between. The ability can be high or low, easy to do. So being in Maui, the fact that I'm super motivated to surf, and now here it's really easy to do, I'm right here. I'm above this action line. Now, if I were back in California, in Healdsburg, I'd still be motivated, but it would be hard to do. So I'd be below the action line. I'd be this little turtle character here. That's where you have frustration. You want to, but you cannot because it's too hard to do. So all behavior comes back to this. All behavior of all ages and all types. Motivation, ability, prompt. It all can be mapped and understood in those terms.
So tell us about, so you have a book, Tiny Habits. Prop number 2. Okay.
We're in my Zoom room. Yes. Here we go. Yay. Procky, you have it. Perfect.
You totally disarmed me and destroyed my script.
I'll read the next part. It's like, hey, BJ.
So, go ahead, David.
Go ahead, Chip. I've lost my mind.
No, I just back to the chart there. How have you and Holly Csikszentmihalyi connected, and how does your map thing connect with flow, like the flow diagram?
Csikszentmihalyi's? Yeah, so Csikszentmihalyi, which I am so glad, Chip, you nailed it. You know, most people just stumble on that last name. He's the guy that came with the concept of flow. I haven't formally mapped it, but you're really insightful, Chip, to recognize there is, I think, a connection. When somebody does a behavior that's toward the, that challenges their capacity and they succeed, they would be right above the action line. So the way I would view flow is you're just barely above the action line. You're doing the hardest thing that your current state of motivation allows you to do. So if I were mapping flow to here, it would be just barely above the action line. That would be for like me going out and surfing here, and the waves are so big that it's just barely within my capacity to surf them, but I do it successfully. Those would be the days when I'm in flow. This morning, the waves weren't that big. I didn't fall at all. I had fun, but I didn't go into flow because it didn't challenge my capacity. So that's how I would think about it mapped to the behavior model.
Beautiful. So, BJ, tell me about Tiny Habits and using your knowledge. So I remember reading somewhere about your partner and the gym.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, Tiny Habits is a method that I created in 2010 to hack my own behavior in my own life. And fast forward in 2011, I started teaching it. Fast forward to today, I've taught over 40,000 people personally this method. And that research and experience led to this. The method goes like this. You take any new habit you want and you make it super small, super tiny. So if you want to floss all your teeth, that's too many. You just do 1 tooth. If you want to do 20 push-ups, that's too many. You just do 2 push-ups or 2 wall push-ups. And the reason you make it super tiny, super easy to do, because if something's easy to do, I had no idea we'd be using this chart. If a behavior is hard to do, when your motivation drops, you go below the action line. In other words, if it's hard to do and your motivation sags, you won't do the behavior. And so I was looking at my own graphic, not this poster, but a version of this back in 2010. And I saw that if a behavior is really easy to do, motivation could be high or low. It can't be 0. I mean, you're not going to do something you don't want to do at all. But it means that the behavior is really easy, then you're not susceptible to fluctuations in motivation. And so I was like, oh, let's try this in my own life. So I just started hacking my own behavior, and I found, wow, I'm very, very reliable at creating habits that are super tiny. And those habits will naturally spawn other habits and grow. And so this was a new way of thinking about habit formation, is you make it really small. You find where it fits naturally in your life, what it comes after. In other words, you got to figure out what's going to prompt the behavior. So you look for something you already do. Brushing is a great prompt for flossing. So brushing can remind you to floss. Push-ups, I had to search for what it came after in my routine, and it turns out it comes after I pee. So after I pee, that's my prompt to then do 2 push-ups, and I've done that for years.
What is IP?
You what's that?
What's IP?
IP, well, it's like when you go to the bathroom and you open the toilet lid.
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
You take it out. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's
Oh my
what
God.
I mean by
I thought you were like intellectual property. I'm sorry. Oh my God. I walked into that one. IP.
IP. There we go. Yeah, I'm not going to demonstrate. I did not come prepared for that today. You'll have to come to Little Beach. Even in that, you go off into the woods to do that. So.
Oh my God. And your name. We're not even going there.
I know. Well, this was not planned.
Well, you could, but you could like give your is it Brian? What's your first name, BJ?
But yeah, so that's now I've been outed what my first name, my given name by my mom is, but I don't respond to that. I mean, my name's BJ, and but yeah, it's now on Wikipedia and it's irretrievable. And people will write me emails like, "Hi, Brian." And I'd go, delete, this person does not know me if they're calling me Brian. It would be calling like Madonna Lourdes or whatever her given Christian name is. But anyway, yeah, Chip, how did you know that? You've been investigating me.
Well, listen, I have a whole team that does that. But I want to go back to the Mormon thing for a minute. Like,
okay.
So I know this is hard. Oh, I know. It's because, so you were Brian. Were you Brian when you were growing up, or you BJ?
Yeah, no, I was a very dutiful child and a really good Mormon boy, and I tried really, really hard. So yeah, I did what my parents wanted me to do, mostly.
At what age did you divert? And I don't, when I say divert, I mean, like, at what point in your life did you actually move from the path that was planned for you?
Yeah, I was probably 26 or so. Yeah. I went to Stanford to do my doctorate. I left. I was in Utah 10 years, doing stuff there and school and other things, and then came back to California. I grew up in California, so I went to Stanford to do my doctorate, and I was just like, there's really no room within that culture for a gay person. I think it's a little more open now, but I was just like, I'm kind of done with this. And so I was probably 26, 27. And that's hard because when you leave a community like that, that's your whole life. I mean, so you're basically saying, I'm going to ostracize myself from this community. And that's hard. But there really wasn't a lot of option, especially when my partner came out a year later, moved to Stanford. And then, that was like 25 years ago. So my partner and I have been together like 25 years or so.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And do you have a relationship with your family?
Oh yeah. They've, it was a journey for some of my family members, but yeah, I called my dad this morning. I called one of my parents. They're sitting next to each other. Well, a tiny habit that I do is after I get in the car after surfing, I call my parents. And I'll call my mom one day and call my dad the next day, even though they're both on the phone. And they're very, very faithful Mormons. In fact, all of my ancestors, every single one, if you trace it back, they all came across the plains with Brigham Young, or they all moved from England and so on. So every line of my family goes back to early days of Mormonism and polygamy and all that kind of stuff. So in some ways, I'm sort of like blue blood Mormon, but one of my cousins did go off one side and became a polygamist. And then I went off the other edge and just was like, I'm gay, people, this isn't going to work for me. And that was a huge scandal back then. But now I have another cousin who's out, and I have another cousin who's transgender. And talk about how crazy hard that is. That was a hard one. Yeah.
And where is he or she living?
Utah.
In Utah, transgender.
Yeah, both of them are in Utah.
That is the name of a book. That is the name of a book. That's transgender in Utah. I
Yeah.
need it. So
There's no, that would be, anyway, yeah. So, you know, but the Mormon thing sticks with you. I mean, you're raised to be honest, hardworking, kind of naive, like earnest. There's an earnestness that comes with it. I'm terrible at like politics. I'm not street smart. I take everybody at face value. I expect everybody to take me at face value. Yeah.
are you an Eagle Scout?
Yes, I am.
You are an Eagle Scout. Me too. Oh my God. Okay, back to David, because like you and I were separated at birth. Okay, David.
Wow. So much. I just FYI, the person who runs our social media is transgender and lives in Utah.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That would be tough. That is the journey of my cousin was so difficult. I can't even get my head around how hard that was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get back to you and your work, right? So let's say, so I love this idea of like breaking things into little habits. And so say, so the habit that I've personally been working on lately is that I realized I'm very prone to distraction.
Okay.
So I'm kind of wired to be distracted. And so what I've been trying to do is to just block out periods of time where like, I don't touch this. You know, I don't look at my email, and I just like try and like drill down on what I'm doing, which was hard. And I know when I've spoken to other people about this, things are like really hard. So like if that's the thing that I want to go to, what would be how do I ladder that up?
Yeah, it's definitely something you can address for sure. Let me give two sides to it. One is our technology distracting us, and the habit to form, David and others. One, you take your Apple Watch, you scroll up, and you see that little moon right there?
Yeah.
So the habit is you click on the moon and it says 1 hour. And so you say, don't distract me for 1 hour. So that takes like 8 seconds.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it's kind of like why I was late here, because I've gotten really good at just focusing and nothing takes me away. So this is a simple way to say, boom, I'm going to take a nap, or I don't want to be distracted by any technology. And you just swipe up, you push the little moon, and you pick 1 hour. So you don't have to remember to turn it off. So that's one approach to do it. And there's probably 10 to 20 other little things like that you can do. But that for me is, if you have an Apple Watch, you got to be doing that. The flip side, on the other side, are things that we procrastinate, which is a type of distraction, but it's on the other side of the spectrum.
Right.
And the thing to do for that, and you can use an Apple Watch for that, but I like using a timer. And this is the best timer. I
love your props, BJ.
I know. And so what you do, so let's say, oh, I have to review my credit card charges on my credit cards. I hate doing it. Because it's boring. And so I will procrastinate that. But to get myself to do it, I'll set the timer for, say, 7 minutes. And you trick yourself. You say, okay, I'm going to start the timer. And as soon as it goes off, no matter where I stand in the project, I am done. So you kind of trick yourself into it. So you say, I have 7 minutes of focus. So notice this is getting over procrastination. And then for just 7 minutes, I focus. And what happens is there's something powerful, and I haven't studied this scientifically, but there's something powerful about knowing I have 7 minutes to look over all these figures on my credit card statement, which is boring. And then once you get started, you often keep going even when the timer goes off. So those are two ends, I think, of one distraction continuum. And they're just little hacks you can do. And both of them can be thought of as habits that you do in the tiny habits way.
Amazing. That's super helpful. I love the idea that like once you get the train on the tracks, it just like kind of keeps going, right? Yeah.
And yes, and in tiny habits, there's a class of habits you can form that I call starter steps. You just do the first step. And I didn't bring the prop in here because it's in the other room that is really my office. This is my Zoom room, where taking vitamins turns out to be too big a habit for me to take like 8 vitamins and supplements. So I just put them in a little dish. That's all I do is I put them in a dish, and then I put the dish on my work desk. And then during the day, I'll take the vitamins. So once I put the vitamins in the dish, that's the habit. I'm done. But then I will naturally take the vitamins and supplements during the day. So there are some behaviors where all you design is for the first step. Now, if I don't end up taking the vitamins, that's okay. In the tiny habits way, that's totally fine. Let me give another example. I love playing musical instruments. I have musical instruments all over the place. And if you want to practice playing a musical instrument, you don't say, oh, I'm going to practice for 5 or 10 minutes. That's actually way too big. What you should say, let's say it's guitar, is all I'm going to do is play 3 chords. And if you want to stop after 3 chords, you are done. But once you actually play the 3 chords, most people will continue and play more. Now, you're tricking yourself there because you might go, oh, I don't feel like playing the guitar, but yeah, I'll do the 3 chords. But once the train is on the track and moving, you keep going. And you can trick yourself this way over and over. So that's one class of tiny habits, is just start. The other class is to make it the behavior tiny. Floss 1 tooth, do 2 push-ups. Instead of like writing 2,000 words, you write 1 sentence. And if you stop there, that's fine. But often you'll keep going.
How do you get the, so, okay, so I think this is brilliant. I love how you spend your whole life trying to trick yourself. I think this is
right? Yeah, it's
awesome.
kind of, yeah.
So I pee, and then I decide peeing makes me want to do push-ups. I don't know why that is, BJ. Well, you have to delve into that at another point. But it's triggered your push-up desire. So now do your 2 push-ups. At what point do you go to 3 push-ups? Do you just stay at 2? Like, how does the ladder begin?
Well, let me start with this. It's not that the peeing makes you want to do push-ups. You use peeing as your reminder. Like, oh, this is where it fits. I pee, I do push-ups, I wash my hands. You take the new habit and you kind of slip it into your routine where it's going to go.
Right.
And 2 is all you have to do. But if you, like the last time I peed, I did 8. And before that, I did 12. So I do as many as I feel like doing. Sometimes I'll do 20. And so what you do is you...
Wait, 20 Ps or 20 push-ups?
20 push-ups, 20 push-ups.
Okay, that is 20 push-ups.
And if I have a lot of coffee, I do more.
It's not like
What's funny and cool.
You know, as you get older, it gets to like a 20p kind of lifestyle. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I have a rule. I don't do it at night, and I don't do it when I'm in public either. So I've...
Wait, pee or push-up? I don't understand.
Push-up.
Okay, got it.
I get up at night. Yes, I'm not doing push-ups in the middle of the night. Yeah, no.
Okay, good,
but
good.
Just this last week, I did 2 podcasts with people over 50. One was 59 and one is 62. The guy that was 59, I'm going to name names, Mark Hyman. Mark says, congratulations, thanks to you, I'm doing 50 push-ups a day using this exact method. And he said, I used to hate doing any kind of strength training, but then I started this push-up thing and now I'm up to 50. And then yesterday I talked to Mark Thompson, who runs a CEO coaching thing. And Mark said a similar thing. I think he's like 62. He says, well, I'm doing 50 push-ups. And he was super proud of it. And he should be. 50 is a lot, people. 50 is a lot. And so these guys are, you know, late 50s, early 60s doing 50 push-ups a day. And so even though it sounds funny and goofy, and you're not always tricking yourself. What you're doing is you're designing habits you want into your life in a realistic way. It's not a willpower issue. It's not a discipline issue. Those things do not work in the long term. Design works. And if it doesn't quite work, then you just redesign it. Just like if I put that picture in a place in the room and it doesn't look right, well, then I just move it somewhere else. That's how you think about your habits. It's a design challenge not a willpower challenge, not a motivation challenge, not a test of your character. And that's why I call my work at Stanford and beyond, the work I've been doing the last 10 years, it's behavior design. That's the phrase we gave it in my Stanford lab 10 years ago. So there's a system for designing your behavior, and that's what the book Tiny Habits is all about. It tells you that system and walks you through it.
Chip, what kind of habit do you need?
A habit to make me feel better right now. I've had a rough week, but what habit could I use? I think the habit I could use is like to turn off my brain. What would be the habit, the tiny habits that would help me to turn off my brain?
You know, Gal, we were separated.
That's a hard one.
That's like my biggest. One of my biggest.
Oh no.
Well, here's what works for me. So look, my 7-minute timer just went off. Playing musical instruments. So I play guitar, I play tenor recorder, I'm playing kalimba murmur, right here's a piano. Playing music for me is something that helps me get into another space and not just be thinking all the time. And then nature. I mean, where I live in California, yeah, I live by a river in California. We live in Healdsburg, up in the wine country. And then here in Maui, we're right by the ocean. So, and if you don't have nature, then just do like rosemary herbs on your balcony or in a windowsill. I mean, nature is, at Stanford, I teach a new class every year. I come up with a new topic. It always has to do with behavior change. The only class I've taught twice, because every year it's a new class, because I want to do new stuff, is the only class I did twice is helping people connect with nature. So that kind of sends a signal to me and hopefully maybe to you, how important it is to get out in nature and disconnect. Don't bring your phone, don't, go on do not disturb mode. So those would be the fast forwards, I think and then of course sex, but I'm not going to get into that. We've been there a lot, but so playing music and nature, design habits for that. Yeah.
By the way, Ellen put a note in chat here saying that for 8 years she's been doing tiny habits around musical instruments. So she's exactly talking about what you've done. So we'll let her do a Q&A. So for those who want to do a Q&A in about 3 or 4 minutes, we're going to open it up for you to ask questions. And we'll have, I think Laura will actually field those questions. So feel free to go ahead and put your questions into the chat and Laura will pick that up. So I want to just ask one question. Your thesis was charismatic computers. What is a charismatic computer? And what's the future of AI? And are we all going to become robots someday?
Well, we'll go backwards. No, I don't think we'll all become robots. I don't know what the future of AI is. So I'll get to the question I can answer.
Yes.
So I was, I grew up in a family that was very tech forward. So my dad is an ophthalmologist. Apparently this goes along with being an ophthalmologist. You love gadgets and stuff like that. And so he loved gadgets and he got into computers really, really early where he soldered his own chips into a computer board and he made his own computer when you couldn't actually buy one. And so that's kind of the home I grew up with. And it was always like, you can buy computers and use technology and all that. But then growing up Mormon, I was also interested in persuasion and behavior change. So those were just natural. When I was living in France, one summer, hiding away from Americans and Brits and trying to immerse myself in French and French culture, I was reading these little books in French about rhetoric and persuasion. And it dawned on me, I was in Montpellier in the south of France, that one day this world of computers and this world of persuasion would overlap, which it hadn't. And I was like, wow, computers that would persuade us to exercise, computers that would influence us to buy things, computers that would get us to conserve resources. And then I was like, oh, now I know what I want to do my doctorate in. Now I know what I want to investigate. Well, it turned out nobody had ever investigated that systematically. So when I went to Stanford, that was my thing. In fact, my colleagues thought I was insane because all I could talk about in every class was, oh, this is how computers would do that. I was obsessed. And I, as a social scientist, ran true laboratory experiments to show scientifically that technology could influence our opinions and our behaviors, which was just considered crazy at the time, just crazy. So I did a series of experiments, and I pulled them together in the thesis that's called charismatic computers, because I used human social influence principles, and I showed that computers could use praise and flattery to get us to do things. I showed that computers we believed that were our teammates, we would respond to them more like a teammate, would work harder for them, would like them more, would cut them slack when needed. And I did a whole bunch of these experiments. So I packaged it together. And I guess I picked charismatic computers because I like is it alliteration? I like the fact that it sounded nice. And charismatic, is, I don't know, persuasive, impactful. Well, it turns out it's come back a little bit to bite me, all of that, because I was mapping out, here's what these things could do someday. And in my book, Persuasive Technology, it's like, this is going to happen, people, and we got to be careful with this stuff. But people didn't care about that till probably 15 years or so after I published my book, Persuasive Technology. Like my book did not sell well back in 2002. Nobody cared about this. And then it was only later, and then I got blamed unfairly for creating, these machines that have addicted your kids to video games and social media and stuff like that, which is not true. But the journalists have looked for someone to blame, and the finger got pointed at me. And they failed to point to all the times I said, hey, there are ethical problems here, and my testimony to the FTC in 2006 warning them about video games and what they're going to do, warning them about persuasion profiling, what Cambridge Analytica did 10 years later, warning them about something I didn't have a name for, but now we call it deep fakes. Those are my 3 warnings back in 2006.
What's a deep fake?
Deep fake is like a video. So let's say you take Barack Obama and they make him say something he really didn't say. That's a deep fake, where you create a video that looks real, but it's manipulated. So that, so all of those things have happened, and it wasn't like I could prophesy the future. It was like, once you understood that machines could influence our attitudes and behaviors, you just start putting the pieces together, and it's like, this is where it's going to go. Now, AI, back to your question, it remains to be seen how thoroughly somebody like Facebook or Google will take what they know about us and build that into systems that will be almost perfect in influencing our behavior. That remains to be seen where that's going to go. But at least now people are talking about that. That's part of the conversation. Whereas when I published my book in 2002, I thought I was going to get calls from policymakers I was so naive, within weeks, like I was going to be getting phone calls. And people didn't care until, 10, 12 years later, probably.
Wow.
So, yes. So anyway, that's kind of a downer. This is upbeat, people. Okay, introducing guests to keep it snappy.
Snappy.
These folks travel with me all the time. This is Frog and Monkey. They're part of my teaching team. So welcome, Frog and Monkey. Yes.
Oh my God, Frog and Monkey. So, David, I think we should move it over to questions, right?
I want to ask Frog something. I don't know how to speak Frog, so I don't know. Great Frog.
Oh gosh.
All right, the questions are coming flying in, BJ.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. So let's see, can you talk about the importance of celebration and how to start with tiny celebrations? This is a question from Carla Odell.
Carla, thank you for that. And I can tell you about my work by asking that question. For people that haven't looked at my book, Tiny Habits, or haven't done Tiny Habits, what you need to know is that the idea that repetition creates habits is false. It is not true. You're going to read it over and over in the headlines. Repetition does not create the habit. What does is the emotion that you feel when you do a behavior. So if you want the habit of playing kalimba, it's not about just repeating it. If you play kalimba and feel successful in a way that matters to you, that feeling, that emotion is what wires in the habit, okay? And so this is a radical rethinking of the historical and kind of the traditional way of thinking about habits, which is wrong. And so one of the chapters in my book is emotions create habits. I'm trying to be very clear about that. And so in the tiny habits method, you don't leave those emotions to chance. You do a technique we call celebration, where you can fire off a positive emotion on demand. So if you want to make flossing, if you want to accelerate the speed of habit formation, if as you floss, you think, good for me, or if you look in the mirror and smile, or if you, after you floss, you go, woo, or whatever, anything that causes you to feel a positive emotion, so your brain connects flossing with a positive emotion. That's how you hack the speed of habit formation. Now, this is controversial, okay? Because people just are stuck in this, oh, it's repetition, repeat it 21 days or 30 days or 66 days. You look at the research they're citing and it does not show that. And so what you do in the tiny habits method is you find techniques, things that make you feel successful. And for those of you that aren't willing to do a fist pump or say, good for me, or smile in the mirror, one way to help wire in the habit is as you're think of something, some huge purpose that really matters to you, and think of that actively. Let me give an example. One of the big purposes of my life is to teach people how behavior change really works. I'm obsessed with that, as you can tell. And so if getting out the vitamins, as I get out my vitamins and put them in a dish, if I can say, by taking these vitamins, I'm going to be much more effective today, tomorrow, 10 years, and 30 years from now in teaching, that will create a feeling of success and a connection between something that's really important and that particular habit. So again, it's still the feeling of success, but I'm connecting it to some life purpose that really, really matters to me. So if you can't do a little dance or sing a song or, hug frog and monkey to make you feel happy and successful, think of how that new habit connects to some higher purpose that you have in your life, and think of that actively. Now, once the habit wires in, you don't have to do that anymore. Once you flush the toilet, you do push-ups and so on. The celebration has served its purpose to rewire your brain and make that more automatic.
Thank you. So we have a question here from Heidi. What if the small change is to stop doing something?
Yeah, the tiny habits method is mostly about creating new habits, but you can use the method to stop doing things. For example, you remember back in the day when we could go to restaurants and order and they'd bring you food? Remember those days? Yeah, okay, back in that day. And we'd go to a restaurant, my partner and I, and they would bring either bread or chips to the table. The tiny habits approach to that is just say, no bread, please, or we won't be eating chips tonight. So notice that's like 5 seconds. And by doing that, the bread and the chips don't end up on the table, because I know if they end up on the table, I'm going to eat them. I know I'm going to eat them. So there are ways to use the tiny habits method to help you stop doing a behavior. And there's a chapter in the book on that, but primarily it's about creating new habits. But in this case, the habit of saying no bread, please, or we won't be doing chips tonight, stops the bread and chips from getting on the table.
It's interesting. So as some of the questions are coming through, people are asking stopping, like tiny habits to stop, quitting smoking, losing, gaining weight, losing weight.
Yeah.
So, some of the addictions, like how do you use tiny habits in that?
I am so glad you asked that. I am not an addictions expert. And I think addictions can be very complicated. I lost a nephew to an accidental drug overdose. He had been addicted and then had a terrible day 6 months later and took his dose, normal dose, and died. And so I don't want to trivialize how challenging that can be. And so in the book, I'm very, very clear. It's like, if you have an addiction, something that's threatening your life, a book is not enough and Tiny Habits is not enough. Go get the help you need. And I want, and you know, I mean, it's really, really important to take that seriously. Now, if it's something like, so in my own life, once we moved to wine country, it was like, oh, I didn't have a palate for wine, but living in Sonoma County in the middle of wine country, it was all around me. So I developed a palate for wine and I liked wine. It never was a huge problem, but there was just a time where it's like, you know, I think I'm done with this. And this was 2 years ago. It's like, I'm going to stop. Because I had practiced the skills of change. Behavior change is a skill, and I map out the skills in Tiny Habits in the book. Because I had practiced those skills of change, I was able to stop drinking entirely. It wasn't even it wasn't hard to do, but that's because I had practiced and practiced. It's just like if you practice a bunch of simple songs on the piano and you scale up, then when you look at the concerto, you can do the concerto. But if you've never practiced the little songs, you can't step up to the concerto. So that's how I would think about it. I knew how to change. I knew how to design my own behavior. I knew how to think about it. And things like sugar addiction, there's all the examples in my book are true, and some of them have their actual names. A woman named Junie took her sugar addiction and untangled that unwanted habit using these methods. So a lot of what people say about creating habits is way, way easier than stopping habits, and addictions are just this complicated space. So there are some situations where you need professional help. But if it's something like a sugar addiction, you can use the Tiny Habits method and things I outline in my book, not to break the habit. I don't talk about it as breaking. You untangle a bad habit. Okay, you don't break it. Break means it's sudden and it's done. No, you untangle it, and you start with the easiest part of the tangle first.
Good one. I have a question here from Patty, who's asking, are your classes open to non-Stanford U students?
No, and they're not even open to all Stanford students. So like 40 students will apply and I'll take 12. So that's the bad news. The good news is I have so much stuff out there online. I mean, the book is yay, hooray. And in the audio version, I share a story in there about my voice and challenges with my voice that when the morning I was supposed to record it, I went in and I was like, Denny, I'm going to go to the studio and record this. And I read it and I like cried. I broke down 3 times. I was just sobbing because I was talking about this huge challenge I'd faced in my life. And it was about my speaking voice. So I had a really, really weird speaking voice and it caused me lots of pain when I was young. So maybe just get the audio version just to hear that, because people have liked, I guess, how I shared a really, really, really hard struggle and mapped it to struggles that people are having and the implication that you can tackle these challenges. So the book is a great way to go, but there's tons of videos. If you go to tinyhabits.com, we have 100 hours of video that myself and my coaches have created that are all about coronavirus challenges. So here's what you can do for loneliness, productivity, creativity, getting along with your partner even though you're locked down. And so there's like 100 different sessions that we did in March and April, and those are available. So there's just tons and tons of stuff I've shared online. So you don't have to come to Stanford College. Now, if you're a professional creating a behavior change product, there is a session I do, a training I do. It's expensive, but that's only if you're like Kaiser Permanente creating a behavior change product, or a startup wanting to get people to meditate or things like that.
Great, thank you. From M. Conlon, how can small steps be used to go beyond personal development to include social change or community building from me to we in the best possible way?
Oh, I love this. Do we have another hour for this? This is a great
This is a great group. It's a great group.
Can I come back? And
Yeah.
I'll dress up a little bit more.
Oh, that's okay. No, you're fine.
You know, in my lab right now, the most important project we're working on, we call it Behavior Design for Climate Action. And the idea in that project and what we're working on is developing a curriculum to train climate change professionals, people whose job it is, to keep sunscreen out of the Maui Ocean or to get people to work from home rather than driving and so on, to train them in behavior change. And we've run 2 pilots of this, and it turns out these professionals really want it, and they don't have training. And so by doing that and teaching them, behavior design is the broad category, and tiny habits is a subset. So the hope is by teaching that, having a curriculum that then is free and scales to anybody who's working in that arena, that we can make the global changes we need among individuals to have this global impact. So we're tackling that. The other project that we started, so we started that last year at this time. And we should have a deliverable on that by November, I'm hoping, where if you know somebody working in climate change, we have a way to train, and it's all free and to help save the planet. The project we took on 2 weeks ago is the challenge of vaccination against COVID-19. So in anticipation of billions of people are going to need this vaccination, we're taking that and we're breaking it down in behavior design terms and helping people understand this problem so we can be more efficient in helping people get vaccinated. And so that's individual level behavior that hopefully will create herd immunity, not only for regions, but eventually the globe. So the pattern in my lab is to pick the hardest problems that relate to behavior and behavior change and go for it, So within a company, there are things you can do to change the culture by helping people do new tiny habit methods and so on. But the unit of change I like a lot is the household. And in my lab, we studied this as part of a longer project we call Change Together. And in the book, I talk about this thing that we call super fridge, where you redesign your fridge so you can eat anything in the fridge that you want at any moment. And then it helps your whole household eat differently and change together so you can stick to a healthier eating game plan. So those are a few examples of, yes, those are all individual changing their behavior, but they add up to something bigger.
Great. Another question, Kansas Milford. It seems like motivation is imperative and that is hard to keep consistent when you want to change. How do you sustain your motivation? Props.
Okay. If you forget everything else, remember frog and monkey and these 2 things. 1, help people do what they already want to do. All right. So whether it's you changing things in your own life or helping a spouse change or your workmates or people in your community, the only thing that works for lasting change is helping people do what they already want to do. What doesn't work is trying to get somebody to do something they don't want to do and keep injecting motivation into the system. So you start with, and there's a method for doing this well, and I won't go into the details of this, but the takeaway is there's 2 principles. 1, help people do what they already want to do. And number 2, help people feel successful. So if people are doing what they want to do and they feel successful, they will continue. Now, the feeling of success both wires in the new habits, like we talked about, but it also motivates people to go more. So if I want to play kalimba, and I'm feeling successful, or my partner goes, wow, you sound so good, or you're getting so much better, Guess what that does for my motivation the next day? It goes up.
Mm-hmm.
These are the two most important principles for designing for engagement, for lasting change, for habits, and on and on and on. And so that's why I stamped the Fogg, my name on it, and I call them Maxims 1 and Maxims 2. Those are the, if you're creating a new product or service, that's what you have to do. If you're designing for your own behavior change, help yourself do what you already want to do, help yourself feel successful. And let me build a little bit on number 2. Goal setting may or may not help you feel successful. For some people, it might be a good strategy, but if it makes you feel unsuccessful, it's not. Tracking your performance day by day. If that's not helping you feel successful, do not track your performance. If posting your new way of living on Facebook helps you feel successful, do it. If it's going to scare you and help you feel unsuccessful, don't do it. So all these techniques and all these things around behavior change, I'm just going to be, you can set them all aside and just say, is it helping me do what I already want to do? If so, cool. If not, don't do it. And number 2 is goal setting, is tracking, is public commitment helping me feel successful? And if it is, great. And if it's not, don't do it. So it really boils down to those things.
How do we get people to wear face masks?
I have a video on that at behaviormodel.org. And I will just fast forward and say, this is sad to end it on. As a nation, as the United States, we will not make it. We will not make it as a nation. The way this model works is it's like a chain. And if 2 links in the chain or one is broken, like everybody can do it except some, it has to be a collective change. And because prominent leaders of our country have not demonstrated this behavior and have confused us, I hate to say it's a lost cause, Chip, as a nation. Now within Maui, we're doing it. It's not a lost cause within Maui or within smaller communities, but I give us 0 odds for us as a nation all wearing masks, because what has happened early on in the pandemic, and I'll lay the blame at Donald Trump's feet, because of what he did, he's given people permission to say, I'm going to have my freedom and I'm not going to wear a mask. We're never going to recover those people. So I'm sorry to say that is, we won't, here on Maui, we're doing it and we can. Because it's a smaller kind of community and there's a special type of pride. But as a nation, we have been betrayed on that type of behavior change. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we could go on for another hour, but I don't know if we have the time to. And I want to just say, first of all, Book of Mormon, up, down?
I will just say, it is a very interesting book. And I've read the Bible, I've read the Book of Mormon.
No, I'm sorry. The Book of Mormon, the theater show.
Oh, no. You know what? I think for me, I've not seen it. And I think it would just be too painful for me to see it. Even though I'm not a practicing Mormon, to see somebody make fun of something that's really important to my parents and my siblings, I think it's not for me, sorry.
Good for you.
But I hear it's really funny, but I think I'm too close to it to do that. What do you think? I mean, it is really funny. People tell me it's terribly funny.
No, it's hilarious, but I have no context. Yeah. Oh my God. How about the thumbs up from our audience tonight for BJ? Like, you love him, right? How much do you love him? And David, what a great, this was David's call. David deserves the full credit for tonight because David said.
I just like it. I'm a visual guy and I love the picture. And it was like, I got to know about this guy.
Good.
But like the props, nobody comes on our show with props. This is awesome.
Listen, we love you, BJ. just so good. We are so fortunate. And so our next BJ, and you and I are gonna hang out because we were separated in birth, and we're supposed to hang out. That's very clear at this point. Our next guest is 2 weeks from now. We don't tell you who they are, but here's the hints. They're a fitness titan. They created a business empire, including a New York Times bestselling book, which is one of the key themes of many of our guests, videos, lifestyle products, and fitness equipment, and the podcast creator and host of The Art of Living.
Ooh.
Pretty high profile person, big time. Another David choice here. And if you like David's choice today, you're gonna like David's choice 2 weeks from now. She's a badass. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to say she's 69 and she can do a one-handed handstand.
That is amazing.
I mean, and she's super cool. So.
All right. Love you all. Love you all. Thank you for joining us. We love this tradition, creating a ritual here.
BJ, you're awesome. We love you.
Thank you.
Invite me back. I'd be so happy to come back.
Absolutely.
Okay, aloha.
Aloha.